0% rise in 2013-14. In 2011-12, and 12-13, it will continue to rise.
Order, order. The Prime Minister's answer must be heard. Prime Minister.
Speaker, the first point of recapitalisation was to save banks that would otherwise have collapsed. And we not only saved the world, saved the banks and saved the banks and led the way. We not only saved the banks.
All know his brilliant salesmanship. This is the man that sold gold at the bottom of the market. That's the problem with the Prime Minister. He's got nothing to sell and he's useless at selling it. And while we're at it, I got a bit more advice for him. This is the Prime Minister who went on American Idol with more makeup on than Barbara Cartland. This is the Prime Minister who sits in number 10 Downing Street. He sits in number 10 Downing Street, wondering.
Order. Even the opposition.
He sits in number 10 Downing Street, waiting for Shakira to call, waiting for George Clooney to come to tea. I got a bit of advice from him. Why doesn't he give up the PR and start being a PM?
Since I've been Prime Minister, it's not Prime Ministers that have gone, it's leaders of the opposition.
The Chancellor issued a one-paragraph statement of support, and the Chancellor and the Deputy Prime Minister have been discussing a smooth transition at an oyster bar in Argyll. Isn't it the case that the most senior members of his own cabinet, the two people he's sitting between now, have stitched him up like a kipper?
It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting how the right honourable gentleman never actually wants to discuss the issues, does he? And I wonder why.
Order. This House is now suspended. Order. The House is now suspended.
He can disgrace his party, but what is intolerable is that he has cynically raised the hopes of hundreds and thousands of families. You're a miserable pipsqueak of a man dog! You're finger away. And yes, I'm sure the honourable gentleman, right honourable gentleman sitting opposite, enjoys a game of bingo. It's the only time he ever gets close to number 10.
In the light of his U-turn on alcohol pricing, can the Prime Minister tell us, is there anything he could organise in a brewery?
Go, shawty, it's your birthday. We gon' party like it's your birthday. You gon' sip a Bacardi like it's your birthday.
There's a £200 million cancer drugs fund, so people get the drugs they need. And for the first time in a long time, the number of doctors is growing very quickly, and the number of bureaucrats is actually falling.
Mr. Speaker, in case the Prime Minister didn't realise, it takes 7 years to train a doctor. So I'd like to thank him for his congratulations for our record on the NHS. And I have to say to him...
Why don't we do a bit of market research? When it comes to their election addresses, hands up who's going to put him on the front. Come on, hands up. Four. That's what I call. There are 6 of them who don't want him in the cabinet, and just 4 are going to put his picture on. He's been airbrushed out of the whole campaign.
Mr. Speaker, I think the country would prefer our policies to a person who has 3 policies on one day Mr. Speaker, he needs 3 television election debates because he's got 3 versions of the same policy to put forward in the debate.
The Prime Minister talks about his policies. We now know what his own election coordinator thinks of his policies. Yes, the Development Secretary. I don't know whether he's the chairman of the campaign or the coordinator of the campaign. He's got 3 people coordinating his campaign. This is what he said. Labour don't have any policies. For God's sake, Harriet's helping to write the manifesto.
Mr. Speaker, he's getting even much redder than he is on his photograph on my poster. I had to say,
As good a record as a Liberal Democrat would have had. I see he's raised the issue of flip-flopping. I have with me a leaflet that has just been put out in the Dunfermline West Fife by-election. From one David Cameron, a letter. It says this: I'm a Liberal Conservative. Issues that once divided Conservatives from Liberal Democrats are now issues where we both agree, like Iraq. Is this the same man that 2 weeks ago told the Daily Telegraph, I am and always have been a Conservative to the core of my being? Then 1 week ago, he's the heir to New Labour, and today he's a Liberal Conservative. No wonder he's against identity cards.
Mr. Speaker, but let's find out what they really think of him. How many of them are putting his photo on their election addresses? Hands up. Doesn't that tell you? Used just 2 minutes ago when he was describing the record of the last government. Let's have no such claptrap from that. He talks about his record, but his chief election coordinator, where is he? Where is he? Not even here today. His chief election coordinator says that his biggest fear, there he is, I've spotted him. Excellent. He says that his biggest fear has always been that this election would turn into a referendum on the Labour Party. Is that what the Prime Minister thinks too? His record. Let's look at his record. I'll tell him about his record. Taxes up, crime up, immigration up, waiting times up, MRSA up, truancy up, and let's have a look at what's gone down. Take-home pay down, pensions down, productivity growth down, manufacturing employment down, detection rates down. After 8 years of Labour government, we're locking up teachers, not yops. Our voting system resembles that of a banana republic, and pensioners who can't find an NHS dentist are reduced to pulling out their own teeth. Isn't there now a clear choice at this election? Rewarding this Prime Minister for 8 years of broken promises, or choosing a government that will take action on the things that matter to hard-working Britons?
Proper answer then. Maybe Dodgy Dave will answer it now. And by the way,
I invite the honourable gentleman to withdraw that adjective that he used a moment ago. He's perfectly capable of asking his question without using that word. It is up to him, but if he doesn't wish to withdraw it, I can't reasonably ask the Prime Minister to answer the question. All he has to do is withdraw that word and think of another. Withdraw!
I know what you're saying.
Very simple. Withdraw.
This man has done more to divide this nation than anybody else. He's looked after his own pocket. I still refer to him as Dodgy Dave. Do what you like.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G.
Snoop Dogg!
Mr. Speaker. 13 years into government, 90 days before a general election, can the Prime Minister tell us what first attracted him to changing the voting system?
Mr. Speaker.
It's back to the bunker time with that one. I don't know whether he pulled the secretary out of the chair before he typed that one, but it was a lot of old rubbish. He talks about the hereditary principle. There's only one leader in this. Why don't we go over some of the history of this? Because, of course, the last Liberal leader who got suckered into this was, of course, Paddy Ashdown. And he wrote this in his diary. He said, time after time, Tony Blair would say, yeah, Paddy, I agree, but I can't get it past Gordon.
Nobody in the House of Commons, the government chief whip shouldn't be smirking about it. It's not a laughing matter. Nobody in the House... Order! Nobody in the House of Commons
Stand up with a straight face and tell us that's true.
Mr. Speaker, it's not only correct, but this is the nearest he's ever got to talking about the economy in the last few months.
For an election with a record budget deficit, at the end of a long recession, I want to ask why the Prime Minister and the Chancellor are at war with each other. This is what we are told. This is what we're told. Damien McBride, listen. Any closer and they'll start kissing. From one of the journalists. Listen to this. Brown's point man turned to the journalist and started laying in.
Order. If honourable and right honourable members do not stop shouting, I may have to ring some sort of helpline myself. Or worse.
Mr. Speaker, I would rather be defending my Chancellor than be in his position having to and the truth...
On his dealings with his newfound comrades, I brought him along Mao's little red book. Let me quote, Mr. Speaker.
Order! I want to hear about the contents of the book.
I think you'll find this invaluable. Well, let me offer. I thought this would help him, Mr. Speaker. Let's quote from Mao. Rarely done in this chamber. The quote is this. Behave. We must learn to do economic work from all who know how, no matter who they are. We must esteem them as teachers, learning from them respectfully and conscientiously. But we must not to pretend to know what we do not know. I thought it would come in handy for him in his new relationship.
So the Shadow Chancellor literally stood at the dispatch box and read out from Mao's little red book. And look, it's his personal signed copy. The problem is, half the Shadow Cabinet have been sent off to re-education.
Very, very grateful to the honourable gentleman to allow me to clear this up, because when I read about Mr. Britnell being my advisor, I was slightly puzzled, because I've never heard of this person in my life, and he is not my advisor. But I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that he was an advisor to the last government. There's plenty more. He helped develop Labour's NHS plan in 2000, which increased the role of the private sector. He was appointed by Labour as the chief executive of one of the 10 strategic health authorities set up by Labour. And when the leader of the opposition was in the cabinet, Mark Britnell was Director General for Commissioning in the NHS. So while I don't know him, I suspect members opposite probably know him rather well.
Mr. Andrew Tyree!
Given the Prime Minister's recent commentary on
Mr. Speaker, YouTube is one of the most important media of communication. And even if the other party will not use YouTube, I will continue to do so.
Surprise. In all of the complex issues the government has to deal with, all of the international discussions which have gone on over the last few months, all of the important questions that have to be addressed, is there a single question of any significance whatsoever to which the answer is the Conservative Party?
No, Mr. Speaker, there is no economic problem we face to which the answer is the Conservative leader of the opposition.
Order. Statement, the Prime Minister. Statement, the Prime Minister.
With permission.
What does the Prime Minister intend to do about the important issue of bullying in the workplace, given the reliable reports of a senior Whitehall boss throwing around mobile phones and printers and swearing at switchboard operators?
Mr. Speaker, any complaints are dealt with in the usual manner.
A single mother with small children came to see me in Sheffield. She had with her
their view on the matter. I think, David, debate can be resumed what day? Order, put it back. No.
He said this yesterday. If he has any evidence, he should produce it now in this House. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, if he will not,
Order! Please, can we calm the debate? This is an important debate, and we don't need shouting across the chamber in that fashion. Order! Do you understand? Do you understand? Stop it. Let's take the heat out of this debate now and stop the calling. Ed Ball.
Well, the honourable gentleman has the right at any time to take his pension, and I advise him to do so.
Joint policy in this area.
The honourable member must withdraw. Order. Name the honourable member. I name the honourable member for Hayes and Harlington. Order. The motion has to be moved. The question is that the honourable member be suspended from the sittings of this House. Submitted to that opinion, say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Division, clear the lobby.
And Brexit cannot be a...
Now, there's been a lot of talk about democracy tonight, and the Leader of the House, who I have to say, with his body language throughout
throughout this evening has been so contemptuous of this House and of the people. And for the benefit of Hansard, the leader of the House has been spread across around 3 seats, lying out as if that was something very boring for him to listen to tonight. Well, can I just say to him, when he has been lecturing us about democracy, we will have none of it.
Member for West Dorset.
This is someone who came into politics to soak the rich and ban the bomb, and ever since he's been sucking up to the rich and dropping bombs. But,
Of course, we will be publishing the bill shortly and putting it to the House, and I look forward to his support on it. But when he talks about consistency in politics, I think he should be a little wary of talking about consistency in politics. He may have a point about the Labour manifesto election in 1983 and what we have done subsequently, but let me point out to him some of the things he has been changing his mind on within the last few weeks, not the last few months. The patient's passport. We will say to people languishing on waiting lists that if they go private, they can take with them 1/2 of what the operation would have cost on the NHS. David Cameron, June 2004. David Cameron, June 2005. I think we were wrong to have a patient's passport that took people. Foundation hospitals. May 2003. This week, the Labour government brought forward their plans for foundation hospitals. The Conservative Party voted against them, a decision I wholeheartedly supported. David Cameron, November 2005. It was a mistake, frankly, to oppose foundation hospitals. Shall I go on?
Order. I think the Prime Minister's made the point.
And if the Right Honourable Gentleman is so keen on supporting the education legislation tonight, why has he only got a 2-line whip for his members? Yeah? And why...
Order. I'll allow that. That's an order. Prime Minister.
I was simply going to say that a record... I am about to answer that a record that has delivered, as Chancellor, the lowest inflation, lowest unemployment, lowest interest rates in this country's history, that has managed the strongest growth of any major industrial economy, that as a result of that has delivered record investment in the National Health Service, is a rather better recommendation than having spent some time advising Norman Lamont on Black Wednesday.
And after those extraordinary exchanges...
Speaker, people may know the game. I know my right honourable friend does, who wants to be a millionaire. So where will the cuts come? Will they come A, on health, B, on schools, C, on the police, D, on pensioners? Because there's not much point in asking the audience, because they don't know. He could always phone a friend, or even the Shadow Chancellor, and I'll help him with the answer. It would fall on schools and on hospitals and on the police and on pensioners. Mr. Speaker, if I could change TV programme for a moment, I know he's very keen on summing up policy in 6 words. Well, how about this? You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
after his shadow chancellor was asked on the television, could he think of one single business leader? And do you know what he said? Do you know what he said, Mr. Speaker? He said, Bill somebody. Mr. Speaker, Bill somebody's not a person. Bill somebody's Labour's policy.
1, 2, 3 into the 4. Snoop